Welcome back to the Sabbatical Goddess Podcast. I am your host, the Sabbatical Goddess. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, whether you are commuting to work or you're still getting ready to go to work. This is episode 2, and we're going to continue our conversation on sabbaticals, being a little bit more specific today, because today we're going to start discussing the types of sabbatical that exist. And there are various types of sabbatical that exist. I'm also going to start using synonyms for sabbaticals. So I will be using terms like leave, professional leave, career break, or even adult gap year interchangeably. And I feel confident to do that now because now that you all know what sabbaticals are, or at least you know if you listen to episode 1. So I invite you to listen to my previous episode, the first episode, if you haven't. Okay, so one of the things I like to emphasize is how much it surprises me that so many professionals out there are missing out on the incredible opportunities and benefits of career breaks and sabbaticals, either because they don't know about it or because they don't know how to plan it. And there's also just so many misconceptions about sabbaticals. And some people are concerned about career interruption, like their career timeline interruption, or what's going to happen with their curriculum, or how they can reintroduce themselves to the workforce after taking a career break. So I'm here to dispel all of those misconceptions. Okay, so the first step you have to take before you start planning your sabbatical is to define what type of career break you should take. What type of career break will fit your goals, but also your needs? Are you one of those lucky employees that can request a paid leave of absence, or will you have to build your own budget? Sabbaticals can vary widely in purpose, funding, and structure, but the biggest two categories that you need to be aware of right now are the self-funded sabbatical and the funded sabbatical. So those I think are pretty self-explanatory. But then each of these big categories can be broken down further based on the focus or theme of the leave. So let's start talking about funded sabbaticals. Funded sabbaticals are financially supported by a third party, such as your employer, an institution like a church, or a grant organization. And there are plenty of grant organizations out there. You just have to know if you qualify, and then you just have to apply. And these types of professional leave are great because they reduce significantly the financial strain of taking a career break. So many professionals out there are not aware that their HR department may actually offer funded professional leave programs designed to benefit both the employee and the employer. These types of programs just aren't openly promoted that much, so it really falls on the employee to show interest and to do the paperwork. And if you're an employer, also listen in because this information is incredibly relevant for employers, for companies and organizations out there, since there is a direct correlation between employee retention and career breaks. So there's plenty of research out there that shows how allowing your employees to take career breaks, especially the loyal, tenured employees, will benefit the company tremendously. So there's just quantitative and qualitative benefits to allowing your employee to take a career break and actually fund it. So within the category of funded sabbaticals, there are also a few subcategories. So let's first discuss the corporate type of sabbatical. First, let me take a sip of my water. I feel like I always have to drink so much water during these episodes. Okay, so first let's talk about corporate types of sabbaticals. So corporate leaves are typically offered by employers, either fully paid or partially paid. And the purpose of these types of sabbaticals is often tied to professional development, such as taking courses to upskill, pursue leadership training, or even to contribute to special projects of the company in order to benefit the company. Some companies also offer funded sabbaticals for employees who wish to engage in volunteer work, as long as the work aligns with the corporate values, which I think is pretty great. An example case scenario, let's talk about an example case scenario for an employee that takes a corporate sabbatical. So your employer could offer a 2-month paid sabbatical, for example, for you to take a professional certification course, such as foreign language training, or a project, or to study for your project management exam. And even if your company only offers professional development type of leaves, you could possibly mix in your accumulated PTO coupled with some unpaid leave to expand or extend your sabbatical. And this is something that actually is very common. So an employee might be granted a few weeks of paid sabbaticals or a paid leave of absence. And then if it's not enough, then it is often possible for them to request or to mix that with their PTO if they have any PTO accumulated. And then if your supervisor likes you and you're in good standing with your organization, then also extend that further with unpaid leave. And the benefit of all of this is that after your career break, you still have your job and you can go back to your organization, right? So you go back to your job. So this example is particularly applicable for those that are interested in continuing the work or continuing to work for their organization. And again, this benefits the employee as much as the employer, because as an employee, you have gained, if you planned your sabbatical well, you've gained more skills, more certifications, more competencies, and you have also rested. So you go back to work and you can potentially compete for higher positions or the different projects that you actually want to work on. And the companies that offer these professional development types of leaves and are flexible with their tenured employees, they do so with investment in mind, because they know that they will gain some type of value from supporting the career breaks for their employees. And there's so much research to support that. Like I mentioned earlier, I have actually a recent article that I was reading the other day here. So the article is called Sabbatical Leave in the Private Sector, an Employee Benefit That Can Be a Cost Saver. And this article is found on the Compensation and Benefits Review Journal. I will type in the information of this article on the description box of my YouTube channel if you want to review it. But it basically explains how allowing employees to take career breaks is less expensive than hiring new employees. So if an organization supports the personal and professional development of their employees through these type of funded sabbaticals, then the study shows that it is likely that their retention will grow, the employee retention of this business will grow, as well as the quality and satisfaction, and therefore there will be less need to hire new people all the time. So it's a very economical thing to support funded sabbaticals. Okay, so let me grab some water, because now I want to discuss some specific companies that have that offer sabbatical programs. Okay, so the first company I want to mention is actually a tier 1 company, Adobe. So you probably already know that Adobe is a leading software company known for developing creative and digital media products. So Adobe offers paid sabbaticals to employees that have worked at the company for at least 5 years. So, how it works is that employees apply for a sabbatical leave through their internal HR processes. Eligible employees can take 4 to 6 weeks of paid leave. And I think that's pretty good if you ask me. The Adobe Sabbatical program encourages employees to use the time for personal growth, recharge, and explore creative pursuits. So if you think about it, it's pretty smart for a company that develops creative projects, a company that depends on intelligent and creative employees to pay for sabbaticals for their employees to further explore their creativity and also rest. That is such a smart way of retaining your team, but also maintaining high morale among your employees, which ultimately can add to the quality of the work environment and even the product. But I strongly advocate for leaves of at least 3 months. I mean, ideally, I think a sabbatical should be 1 year, but this will depend so much on the type of sabbatical that you're going to take. That's why we're talking about the various types of sabbatical. But you definitely need more than 4 to 6 weeks to to change your life in a significant way. Studies show that it can take more than 60 days to adopt new habits and new practices in your life. And an important part of a sabbatical is to significantly and permanently improve your life for the better, which will always include some type of behavior change. In fact, a study in the European Journal of Social Psychology by Philippa Lally and others suggests that it takes about 66 days for a behavior to become automatic. Moreover, forming wellness habits can take anywhere between 18 and 254 days, right? So if you're a person that takes 254 days to change your habit and start waking up early instead of late, then you need that full year of sabbatical. So I really consider year-long sabbaticals optimal. However, it really depends on you because for corporate sabbaticals, if your intention is to stick with that company, then you can use your 4 to 6 weeks and then combine that with PTO and then combine that with with a couple of weeks of unpaid leave. And that could fit for you. That could also serve you to complete your sabbatical vision. Okay, so the second company I want to discuss is called Patagonia. I didn't know about Patagonia before doing my research, but it really seems to have a very good reputation among their employees. One of the sources I used to do my research was Glassdoor, and it seems like one of those companies that has just a good reputation with their workforce. Patagonia is a type 3 type of company, and it is an outdoor apparel company that specializes in sustainable clothing and gear for outdoor activities such as hiking, climbing, and skiing. This company is known for its focus on sustainability and employee wellness, and it offers environmental internships as sabbatical opportunities. So I love that. I love that. I mean, that ties into allowing your employees paid time off to do volunteer work that will impact the environment, their societies, and that have a broader reach, benefiting not only the individual taking the sabbatical, but also everybody else. So Patagonia offers its employees up to 2 months of paid leave through their environmental internship program. That sounds amazing. Not necessarily the paid part, but the fact that they allow 2 full months, 8 weeks, for the employee to take their sabbatical and engage in that environmental project. Additionally, employees are also eligible for an unpaid 8-week sabbatical after every 7 years of full-time employment. So I'm not sure if they can take both paid and unpaid leave at the same time or consecutively. But if you are a Patagonia employee and you're listening to my podcast, I would love to talk to someone that works in that for that company, and maybe even interview you, because it would be interesting to see if it's as good as it sounds, and it would also be interesting to see if there is any report showing the benefits on their type of environmental internships for the individual, and also the benefits to whatever project they work on. So that was a brief overview on corporate sabbaticals. So I want to now talk about the next type of funded sabbatical, which is academic sabbaticals. So academic career breaks. These, I would say, are the most direct precursor to modern sabbaticals, like we discussed in the previous episode. And they're also the most popular type of sabbatical, because most people know that tenured professors benefit from taking really long sabbaticals, and often fully paid. So this type of leave is often supported by universities, also research institutions or external grants. It allows academics, scientists, or professionals to take time away from their usual roles and conduct research or write papers or write a book or even go on a speaking tour. So let me give you an example of an academic sabbatical. A scholar could receive research funding to study climate change, for instance, right? This is just an example. And he or she would spend 6 months traveling through a specific region, their specific region of interest, collecting data and collaborating with local and or international institutions or peers. The mission here is typically centered around contributing new knowledge or completing a large intellectual passion project. So that would be part of the goal of a scholar taking as an academic sabbatical. And the outcomes often include published papers or published books, or even breakthrough discoveries. So sabbaticals are extremely important for scholars because they often need time and funds to focus on a research. Okay, so before we move on to the next subcategory, I want to mention some specific universities that have well-established sabbatical programs. First, Penn State University. Penn State offers sabbatical leave to tenured faculty members who have completed at least 6 full years of service, allowing them to engage in activities such as research, professional development, and or creative work. Then the eligible faculty must submit a detailed sabbatical proposal. So this is very important, guys. Sabbatical proposals are very, very important. That is, I would say, most of your sabbatical planning, although it's not the same thing as having a full sabbatical blueprint, which is what I recommend people to have before they start their career break. But if you're taking a funded sabbatical, you definitely need to outline your goals and your everything on your proposal in order to even request your paid leave. So that is something that applies not only to scholars, but also to anyone else that is applying for a funded sabbatical. So, for example, a professor would outline in their sabbatical proposal their goals and demonstrate how their leave will benefit themselves, their career field, and the university. For these professors, sabbaticals can be granted for a full year or 2-semester periods with full or partial pay provided during their leave, and also provided that the university has funding at the time of the request. Then upon completion, The faculty members are required to submit a full report detailing the outcomes of their sabbatical and its impact on their work and contributions to the department of their university. And this also might be applicable to corporate sabbatical takers because it depends on the policies of your company, but just keep in mind that you might have to do that as well if you are taking a sabbatical that's funded by your job. And that is to, write a report at the end of your sabbatical detailing what you did, what you learned, and how it can benefit your company. So Penn State sees academic sabbaticals as valuable opportunities to foster innovation, academic excellence, and personal development among their faculty members. And I picked Penn State on purpose because I actually earned my master's degree from there. And I can attest that they have some of the most excellent and motivated professors I've ever had. Professors that were absolutely passionate about their work and their field of work, and it was just such a pleasure to be a student of theirs. Now, there are plenty of other universities, both public and private universities in the US, that have a very long tradition of providing sabbaticals to their faculty. Okay, so I think it's time to expand a little bit and see what other universities from around the world are doing in regards to sabbaticals. And many institutions around the world do offer academic leaves and academic professional leaves for their faculty. And they have similar requirements and similar goals from what we've already discussed. But let's see some examples. So the University of Waterloo in Canada offers programs for various professorial ranks, including 6-month pre-tenured sabbaticals to support their faculty research and professional development. Then faculty members in the University of Western Ontario and the York University in Toronto also benefit from paid sabbaticals. Then far away in Australia, the universities of Melbourne and Sydney offer well-structured sabbatical programs for their tenured faculty, allowing them to pursue academic research and collaborations internationally, which I think is pretty great. And it can enrich any field of study even more when you reach out of your country and collaborate internationally. Then in France, I have here the example of La Sorbonne, which offers research sabbaticals that can be taken locally or internationally to advance academic and scientific work. Then we have Italy's University of Bologna that allows their tenured academic staff to apply for sabbatical leave to further their research and contribute to international research groups. So a lot of these other universities really emphasize international collaboration. So the last subcategory of funded sabbaticals is the religious sabbatical. We talked about religious sabbaticals last week while exploring the origins and evolution of the Shabbat and the Shemitah and all of that. And we can talk so much more about it. We can discuss religious sabbaticals so much, and that is because that is part of the origin of a sabbatical, right? The whole idea that since even God rested, according to the Abrahamic religions, then rest must be super important, right? Because even God rested after the creation of the universe. So again, we can talk so much about religious sabbaticals, but one thing I do want to clarify at this point is that when I talk about religious sabbaticals on this episode, I'm not talking about people going out there to take a spiritual retreat or lay people doing a pilgrimage. No, I'm talking about the clergy here, the type of sabbaticals that clergy members take every certain time to rest from their ministry. So that's what I'm talking about in this episode. But in future episodes, I will discuss how people incorporate spiritual practices that are similar to what the clergy members do um, into their sabbaticals, but that are not limited to that, right? Spirituality is just like one functional area um, of an entire sabbatical blueprint. So the type of religious sabbaticals that I'm talking about in this episode are typically sponsored by religious organizations or funded through congregations and are intended for those seeking time to deepen their faith and enrich their congregation. This can include missionary work, retreats, and pilgrimage. Ministry work is actually quite demanding, especially for older clergy members. So, eligible clergy may request a sabbatical to also rest and to study and to take a break from their congregation members and travel and, again, attend retreats and the like. And the length of their work leave, the length of their leave often depends on the financial support that their same organizations and congregation can provide. So, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. In the next episode, we're going to continue our discussion and talk about self-funded sabbaticals. Self-funded sabbaticals are my favorite because they allow for so much flexibility, but they're also the type of sabbatical that incurs the most risk. So that is why it's important to talk about risk mitigation when it comes to self-funded career breaks. So thank you so much for tuning in. Remember that you can subscribe, follow. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to leave me a comment or a question or anything so that I know that at least one person is listening to these podcasts. And you can listen to this also through some of the main streaming apps, to include Amazon Music. You can just ask your Alexa to play the Sabbatical Goddess podcast, and she will play it for you. And yeah, thank you so much, and see you next time.